I'm sure most of you guys know, I went to the University of Akron, so Northeast Ohio is no stranger to me. I understand what football means to this area of the country, and I understand what the Browns mean to Cleveland. So that's something we don't take lightly, and we're very excited about.
All right, welcome into another edition of Off the Season, Off the Leash. I'm Ashley Holder. That is the sourdough queen, as she has in her hat. Right there is a beautiful hat.
If you're listening on the pod, you can't see it. Thank you very much.
Which means you should be watching the pod. So
yes,
I love the way that you
right.
just transitioned into that. Mark Schwab and OBR's Fred Greetham, we are all in the building. We were able to hear from the newest Browns coordinators today. That was Travis Switzer, the offensive coordinator. He is a former offensive lineman for the University of Akron. Shout out to the Zips. I know a lot of people are happy to see this boy come back to Northeast Ohio. He was even talking about it, too, of just like how excited he was to make his return. But really quickly, before we get started, let's take a little brief listen to what he had to say today.
And I'm excited about the guys we have here. I mean, Monk said this in his opening press conference. I mean, you don't take a job if you're not excited about quarterbacks that are in the building. And it's more than one. You know, we're excited about Dylan. We're excited about Deshaun. You know, anytime you have a guy who has had the success that he's had, I mean, he's got to be part of the equation as far as when we talk about competing for that job. And then Shedeur and what he was able to show last year. You know, he's still young. He has a lot of growth that he can still achieve, especially year 1 to year 2. I mean, he only started, 6-7 games last year. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about in that room. As a quarterback, you got to be able to throw 4 picks in the first quarter and step into the huddle in the second half, look your guys in the eye, and they still believe you can go win the game for them. You know, so that's one of those things that you got to have. And I don't know if you can coach that. You know, I don't know. I think it certainly helps. You can develop that through preparation and then having success. And now you have confidence in your own process and all those things. And that does start to develop. Pieces here that we are excited about. I mean, it starts with Fannin, Judy, Shedeur and what he was able to show last year, Deshaun and what he's shown in his past, and Dylan and what he was able to show last year as well. The offensive line, obviously, is something that we're going to be looking to add to, and in addition to develop, you know, the guys that we have here. You know, with Whippler, possibly Joel. I know it's certainly going to come up as well, but we're allowing him some time to kind of figure that out. But, yeah, there's a lot of pieces here to be excited about.
How do you assess your wide receiver room?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously something that we're looking at right now too. Anytime you have somebody very similar to the Deshaun, you know, point, you got Jerry Jeudy, who is a very talented player, you know, and that'll be something that we're looking to try to tap into. You know, a skilled player's production year to year. I mean, there's just so many variables that go into that. You know what I mean? I think you can overthink things a lot of times outside of that individual player's control. You know, so we'll be looking at all those things, and we're very excited about Judy and Bond, and then obviously, like I said, I mean, I think we include some tight ends in that as well with Fannon's skill set. So we're very excited about our pass catchers here.
It's pretty interesting because I want to say this is the most that I have actually heard about Dylan Gabriel, his name being mentioned, because before this I feel like a lot of people just have not really talked about him, but he clearly said that, you know, hey, it's a competition between all of them, and he should absolutely be talked about. Another thing that I thought was pretty interesting that he brought up was just saying what they're looking for in a quarterback was a story. Fred, you were there, of someone told he couldn't pinpoint exactly who told him, but he said they're looking for a quarterback that can go in there, and if in the first half he throws 4 picks, that you have to be able to get that, you know, get your team back together and huddle them up and say, okay, we're going to go win this game, and still be able to, you know, bounce back from those 4 picks.
I think some of the things that stood out to me there was when he was asked about pieces or playmakers, he mentioned Fannin right away and Judy, and then he went to Shedeur, and then I think he's saying, I can't just leave it there, and Deshaun and Dylan, you know. That was my takeaway. But then I asked him about the wide receivers because we all think they need to get one at the top of the draft or in a trade or something, and all he mentioned was Jerry Jeudy and kind of said, he's good. He didn't have a good year, and he gave him some excuses. He was the only one he mentioned. Then he threw and Bond, and then he went right back to Harold Fannin. Cedric Tillman was the starting opposite of Jeudy. Now, I'll give him a little pass that he probably might have forgot about, but the only ones that came to his mind was Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver, and he threw in Bond, just said, and Bond. So that kind of tells me they know they have to go get some guys at wide receiver, whether it's trade, free agency, or in the draft.
I think that makes sense when you consider as much as he was bad last year. Jerry Jeudy is their only name brand receiver, right? I was a little surprised, though, he didn't mention Tillman, at least. Throw his name out there. But it was the two guys, Jeudy, Bond. Let's talk about Fannin. Right to the tight end, because he didn't even bother to throw in Tillman or any of the other guys. That's fine. This is just a press conference, and we all know they need a lot of work there. I do want to know what he can actually do with Jeudy. We're all going to wonder about that, of course. They're running up to training camp and then all the way through up until the season. I still think if Jerry Jeudy, I think we all agree, if Jerry Jeudy is their best receiver when this thing kicks off in training camp, they haven't done well. Like if they draft Carnell Tate, all right, we don't know. I guess immediately is Tate better than him, but you can see the path to Jeudy being your second receiver. If we get to training camp with this team, and you don't see a viable path to anyone being the number one receiver other than Jerry Jeudy, I am not going to like how they handled the receiver position this offseason.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I think it was interesting that Tillman wasn't mentioned either. And maybe the default is to mention Shador because he was their starting quarterback. And so that's the first name you're going to mention when you talk about starting to build out this offense. But him mentioning tapping into Jerry Jeudy, so it's admitting the first season he was here, he had a good season, and so it's tapping back into that, but he can't be your number one wide receiver. I think we've all been clear about that. Did he mention anything about Quinshon either?
The number one wide receiver if they bring someone in, or they can bring someone in that has a decent, good name, but he could still be your number one wide receiver. You're no, they bring someone in and he just cannot be number one.
I just don't think he's a number one receiver. Mm-hmm. I think it's shown last season that he's not. And so maybe you bring in someone, you draft someone, and technically Jerry Jeudy is still that name brand one, but I think someone would come in and surpass him.
Well,
maybe it's Isaiah Bond next year. Who the heck knows?
I want to say he also mentioned in that presser that he kind of was not giving an excuse for Jerry when you asked him actually a little bit after about the wide receiver room, but it was kind of you can't really fault someone for the year that they had and, the pieces they had around them. It was almost like he was kind of giving him a little bit of a pass. And
yeah, but how can you not fault a guy for dropping 20,000 passes? What are we missing?
Now, I don't know.
He led the league in drops, and so
it was not his fault, clearly.
That's my point. If he's getting open and the guy's just not hitting him or whatever, or he's getting way too much coverage because there's absolutely nobody. Okay, that's the stuff we can talk about. Well, you can't really fault him. How many times did we do this show after a game and I got Ashley blowing 17 gaskets because that dude had balls clanging off his hands?
This is true.
No, you can absolutely blame him for that.
Yeah. I agree with Leah that
it's ridiculous.
He's not a number one. He is on this team, but you have to go get a blue chip receiver. Yeah. You cannot get a third round and lower pick that's all Andrew Berry's done. I think his best bet is go get a guy in the trade. That's what he's shown. He knows talent if they're already NFL ready, because we know many times rookies don't hit the ground running. I want him to take one of those top three wide receivers in the draft, but I also think they need a veteran that can come right in, proven, ready to go. I said this a year ago. That was the second or third highest priority was wide receiver, and they didn't address it. One of Andrew Berry's biggest mistakes, coming to training camp, to your point, with that same cast and counting on Cedric Tillman by default to be the starter.
Silly.
I would have to say that they would probably realize that they can't do that another year in a row,
right?
Because 9 times out of 10 that is not going to work again. But then again, you guys have been here longer than I have, and you have seen a whole lot more than I have seen.
We've never really seen good receivers.
Well, this is Todd Monken's time to put his stamp on the offense. You brought him. You passed over Jim Schwartz at risk of the defense to get a guy that knows what he wants and knows how to build an offense. That goes for quarterback, wide receivers, whether they use Jerry Jeudy like Zay Flowers, in motion and just getting him the ball. That is what he's brought here to do.
Well, the one side of the ball that does not have the biggest problems is the defense. And we heard from the new defensive coordinator, Mike Rutenberg, today. And let me tell you, he just spoke with so much passion. It's like Jim Schwartz, he came in with that kind of veteran of like, I'm cutthroat. This is what it is. But like Mike was in there he was jacked. Like he was having a good time. He spoke very well, he was talking a lot about over style over scheme. Let's hear a little bit of what he said today in the presser.
Any new opportunity is about building relationships, right? And relationships come from the heart. So we're going to build relationships. I'm going to learn about the players, learn about the coaches, share my story, and learn their story. And whatever is important to the players, I want to learn about them, whether it's their families, whether it's football, any outside interests. I'm going to dive right in and build those relationships. It's always going to be style over scheme, no matter what. The way we play, how hard we play, playing for each other, how fast we play, and how violent we play. And that's always going to be over scheme. Us going after the ball and then putting our players in the best positions to be successful. It's always going to start with the front. It forever and always will in the history of football. And we're going to continue to do that. Keep attacking. Keep getting downhill. Keep attacking. Keep getting downhill. Like you said, not only Miles, you got great players across the front. Malik, Alex, Isaiah, Mason Graham. I could keep going across the front, and the backers behind him who are involved with Carson. And, obviously Dev had a great year last year, and Mood had a great year. And the safeties behind them with Grant. And Rocket, everybody's involved, but it's always going to go back to the front. I don't know how much secret sauce I'm going to give you on where this system's going, but I promise we're going to attack and play as hard as possible.
I mean, come on, man. Like, come
like
on.
it.
Like, he gets you jacked and ready. Like, this defense is about to be taken to another level. Like, come on.
Violent.
Violence.
I like what
love
he said,
it.
starting off, especially when you're coming in behind a guy that was so well liked, that Jim Schwartz, right? So many of those guys in that room backed him. That's who they wanted to be their head coach. And so you might have some fractured relationships when it comes to guys not being happy with maybe who's coming in next. And so the fact that right off the jump, he's like, my biggest focus is forming these relationships and like getting these guys to buy in and like getting them on their side. Like, that's how you have to approach it. You can't come in like hard nosed of like, I'm the guy that's taking over and here's what we're going to do. And like, let's get ready to go. Like to really focus on like who they are as people and establish those relationships. Like that, like y'all talked about, like he came across genuine and like he's excited to build those relationships and start working with these guys.
Anytime we can talk about how somebody won the press conference, I am here for
We'll take it.
Right? Because it is
Doesn't
it is
happen that
March,
often.
so naturally we can all get excited about what it will be. But no, that's what you want. You want somebody that can come in, especially these guys. And we've talked about it on the show before. Garrett is going to be disappointed. We know that, right? Those guys wanted him, wanted Jim Schwartz. They're also professionals. They're going to have to move on. They're going to at least hear this guy, and this guy's going to get in a room, and you feel like, we don't know if he can perform yet, but we feel like he can sell himself.
Yeah.
You just want your guys to buy in. Because if you can't fool players. If you had brought in a defensive coordinator and they're like, all right, we're going to have to do what we have to do, but this ain't it, right? Mike Rutenberg, he's not come off as somebody that they're going to be in the meeting with and be like, hey, this guy ain't it. It feels like guys can buy in there.
I was impressed with him. He won the press conference, but you could see some substance in there, and I can see how he sold Todd Monken on this position. He sounded like Jim Schwartz can come in 2-3 years ago and had the resume, Super Bowl champion, one of the best in the business, and said, this is what we're going to do. This guy said the same thing, basically the attack, aggressive. It all starts with up front. But I could, as a media member, if I would run through the wall already, and I can see the young players as well, and that's what he was talking about, the relationships. I'm not just going to come in here and bulldoze them. We're going to get to know them. And what I was impressed with him, but unlike Switzer, is that Rutenberg, he listed the whole defense. In fact, I don't know if you were in the room, he came back later
and he
because he
listed
forgot
everybody.
somebody,
Yep.
and he listed
Yep.
somebody said, you don't know the whole team, do you? He listed them all. He forgot one guy.
Michael.
And he's only been here, a week or two. And so he really looks like he's going to have that infectious personality that could be the thing that ignites, Miles and some of the others to keep things going all the way around. So I was impressed. We'll see what they do out there, but I like the attack aggressive. The engine is the defensive front. That's what all Jim Schwartz talked about.
And they said that he said today in the presser that he hasn't had a chance to speak with Myles Garrett, but you'd have to imagine that him and Myles will probably have a one-off and be able to talk about, how they're going to lead this defense, because he was excited, as everyone is, when they joined the Cleveland Browns to work with Myles Garrett. And if you get Myles on your team, you pretty much have the entire team, and I don't mean just the defense. You have the entire team behind you. And as you said, he came back in the room, he forgot a coach, and he was like, oh, man, he was like, I don't want anyone to think I'm forgetting them. He was so passionate. You could tell he cared about, the coach he forgot to mention and wanted to make sure he spoke about, and came over to every media member. Hey, I'm Mike. Hey, I'm Mike. And, we got to shake his hand and speak to him. And that is the type of guy that you get excited about, especially for us, because, we're not the ones playing. We can only run through an imaginary brick wall for him. But this is the one thing that is the pillar of that team, and you have to find a way to continue that, because if not, we'll have Jerry Jeudy leading the other side of the ball. All right, we're going to take a really quick break on Off the Leash. We'll be right back with Mark Schwab's True False question of the week.
Off the Leash continues. We're into the off season, and we are now really starting to get into the rumor mill waters, right? People are coming available. We just found out that Stephon Diggs is going to be released. No, this question is not about Stephon Diggs, but now we're starting to see the landscape of the off season starting to unfold. We've already had the combine draft, of course, around the corner. Free agency next week. One of the names that is going to be out there, it sounds like Arizona is moving on from Kyler Murray. True or false, the Cleveland Browns should pursue Kyler Murray?
I would like to say I knew this was going to be your true false today. And when we were talking in the first segment, I was like, should I bring up Kyler Murray stuff? I was like, nah, I feel like Schwab's got it.
That's the one.
I'm just going to wait, even though we were talking about quarterbacks.
I'm disappointed I'm that predictable.
No, it's a great topic, like a great question to be asked. That's a great thing. I was glad you brought it up. I say yes, even though did I get that right?
You did. You're on the correct side.
True.
I'm always saying false.
Episode 50, we
always
still know how
saying
to answer
false,
the
or I'm
question.
supposed to say true. Why not? Like, I know y'all had said that they mentioned, like, Dylan Gabriel today and hadn't forgot about him. Like, I think they're going to move on from him. And so why would you not bring in Kyler Murray and have him in a quarterback room with Shador, Deshaun? I just think as of right now, like, neither of your options seem to be the future of the franchise, like the guy. I'm not saying Kyler Murray is the guy, but I think he has more talent than the other two, and I think he's more exciting and has shown more flashes of what he can be. I mean, Deshaun's obviously shown good flashes, but not as of late.
Been a long time.
So, yeah, I say yes.
True.
Yeah, I say true.
I'd say true as well. Before it came out that they have informed him they're releasing him, is that I thought he's one to kick the tires, on, especially if you remember a few years ago, the Broncos moved on from Russell Wilson. Didn't work out that great for the Steelers, but they only had to pay $1.2 million. And that's all you'd have to pay for Murray, because the Cardinals have to eat that whole thing by releasing him. The only question I have is I don't know if this is a desirable situation for him, because he can choose. I think they will explore the trade. If before you're getting rid of him, you're going to eat it. Can you trade, throw him a 7th-round pick so he's your property? I don't know the ramifications on the salary cap on the trade. That's the only question. But, yeah, if he's open, he probably wouldn't pick here. He'd go to Minnesota or somebody that is a little more desirable. But if you can acquire him, hey, you got a 1-year. If he becomes the guy, certainly he was the number 1 pick in the draft, and we've seen what's happened. The talent's there. The only question anybody has about him is size, and the last year, durability. But you look at his stats. You look at his stats in his career, even though the Cardinals only went to playoffs once, they're very strong, way better than any of these other guys that are available or retreads or whatever.
I would probably have to go with false.
Ooh.
I don't see the point of really going after him, considering if 9 times out of 10, I'm thinking it's going to be Shador, and they have to take the time to develop Shador, and Murray's going to want to go somewhere he is a starter and wants to start. And I would think that that's not going to be here. And I agree with you, Fred, that if he has an option, I don't think he's going to turn around and say, yeah, I want to go to Cleveland at all. But I don't see the point of it. If you're going to have Shador as your guy down the road, then you have to develop him.
Exactly,
So
but if you don't think he is,
Yeah, they might not think he is.
if you don't think
I
he is,
don't believe that they believe that he is not that he's not the guy.
Hold on. They
And-
don't
and
believe that. Don't
Yeah,
believe
I
that.
don't
I need
believe
a map
that
here.
they don't believe that he's not the guy. I think I said that right.
You're
I don't
saying the
believe,
Browns believe
1 plus
Shador is
2
their
plus
Yes,
3
guy.
I
plus
do. I think they do think he's the guy, and
There
I
we
said
go.
that a lot more difficult, but that's because I need y'all to pay attention to what I'm saying. But for real, like, I don't see the point of that. If you're gonna develop, if you're gonna play him, then you need to play. I mean, if you're gonna develop him, you need to play him, and bringing him here, even for a year, just doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? And Deshaun, I do believe that Deshaun is very much in that equation, and I don't believe that Deshaun wants to be a backup either. So yeah.
I'm actually going to agree with Ashley, but for different reasons. I'm going to say false, and here's why. I agree that if you brought him here right now, he would probably be their best quarterback. But I'm going to say false because I just don't think Kyler Murray is ever going to be the type of guy that can lead a team to a Super Bowl. And so I'd rather wait and try to find the guy who is. Whether it is somebody already here, maybe they can resurrect Deshaun's career, or maybe Shador is the guy, or maybe they do think we're going to draft Simpson at 24 and let him sit for 2 years, and then he can be that kind of guy. Kyler Murray, there are the durability questions that Fred brought up, but there's also always been commitment questions. And I believe he has gotten better at that. The maturity has been there, but he does have the reputation of maybe not always being the most, head in the playbook type of guy. I don't know if you can get him for 1 year on a flyer deal. There are teams that like him. Maybe Minnesota does throw a bunch at him, or some other team. And then you got to go out and make a substantial commitment to the guy. And if he's not enough to get you over the top as far as being a Super Bowl contender, he can only get you kind of there. This is why Arizona's moving on from him. They don't see him as a guy that can win a Super Bowl. I want that guy. If your response to that is, this is the Browns, they are never going to win the Super Bowl, then what are we even doing here?
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I do think he is an upgrade. I do not think he is enough of an upgrade that he's worth the chase. I don't think that juice is worth the squeeze. I want to try to find a guy who can win a Lombardi.
That juice is not worth the squeeze over here in Cleveland. We're going to take a really quick break off the leash. We'll be right back. All right, is it fair to say that possibly as we wrap things up, do you think that they would possibly look at Stephon Diggs really quickly?
I don't know why he'd come here. He's at the end of his career, needs a Super Bowl win. You covered him. Do you see any reason he'd come here?
I would have a couple years ago, not now.
Not now, okay. That's my thing. He'd help.
I agree.
Well, they need something.
It's going to be hard to bring in some of those big names like we had
Yeah.
talked about.
the Browns are going to show their hand come Monday. If they're chasing, you're going to know who they're chasing at quarterback, if any. So that will determine if they think they can win or they're just playing this year out with Shador and see what they have.
All right, new league year starts on Wednesday. This is going to get good. We're going to start seeing all that stuff coming out on Monday. So make sure you check us next week on Off the Leash, wherever you get your podcast. For Ashley Holder, Leah Doherty, Fred Greetham, and Mark Schwab, this is Off the Leash.